Good afternoon, everybody. This is beautiful Denmark. This is the Tour of Denmark, stage 5, and we have an individual time trial for you. It's 16.1 kilometers, the fourth time this century that we have a time trial in Helsingør, or Elsinore, as you might know it, of course, the site of Shakespeare's Hamlet. This is our current leader by the name of Frederik Muff of the Cola Quit team. And we quickly move on with the live coverage here with Lasse Norman Leth. He just took the start at 13:41, so that is 5 minutes ago. And the TV director has a camera bike with him. The man who is one of my big favourites for today is just leaving the podium as we speak, and that is a Dutchman, Dan Holer. Hopefully we'll have a camera bike with him as well, but for now we stay with him. The situation at the finish line. Frederik Muff is our current leader, a rider of the Cola Quit team. In second place we have Aivaris Mikutis, the Lithuanian national champion. Rasmus Zöberg Pedersen in fourth, Martin Pedersen and Matthias Larsen. That is the situation at the moment. We do have the fastest time at the first time check, which comes after 5.2 by Frederik Muff. The fastest time after 10.7 for the man from Lithuania, and at the finish it's at this moment Frederik Muff in the hot seat. As you can see, absolutely splendid weather today in Helsingør, or Elsinore, as might be easier to understand. It's 24 degrees Celsius, which is about 75 Fahrenheit. And basically, if we look at the course, we leave the city, we go to the west, then make a small detour, and then we take this exact same route back. So most of the course is actually a two-way road. On the way out, we have a headwind, and on the way in, we have a tailwind. And Brian Smith, that is basically everything there is to say.
Yeah, 16.1 kilometres, perfect conditions. You know, we're set for a kind of battle royale within the Lidl Trek team. You know, who's going to win this one, but, you know, it does favour Mads Pedersen. Great win again yesterday by Fabio Jakobsen. I think he said he could have won that with one leg, apparently. So, yeah, the fastest man won in the end. But let's see, because, you know, it's tight. You know, when you consider that Magnus Cort Nielsen is at 104, Vermeers is at 107, Warren's called 109. You know, we haven't really kind of decided the top three of this race, and I'm pretty sure everybody will want to get there. But we know who, I think, barring any incidents, who will be first and second.
Well, this is a man who didn't show up on the intermediate time checks that I had, and he really has to fight all the way to the line to get the fastest time, but he does. Josef Černý, the Czech rider of the Soudal Quickstep team, is now our new leader in the hot seat. Here we are with the next man on our screens of the Leopard team. This is Mats Østergaard Christensen, our first king of the mountains, or king of the hills, as we should say here in Denmark. And he is also approaching the finish line. The fastest time at the moment is 18 minutes 48. As the riders come in quick succession, and we have our spacey Uno-X helmets again. I don't know which I find more interesting, the Uno-X ones or the SOC ones that Specialized uses, or Specialized sponsored teams use.
Well, do you know why they're like that?
It's all aerodynamics, I assume.
Well, not necessarily in the one that Soudal Quickstep uses. That sock is to keep the helmet in place, because you'll see a lot of the time that riders will put their head down and put it up, and you know, there was a time where they tried to kind of velcro it to the you know, your back, top of your back, but but I'll just go over to this helmet here. Look, the whiteness of this helmet is just it's like aerodynamics, especially for this. So with it being a wider helmet, it can and this is a perfect shot, it kind of complements where your shoulders are. So you know, you're going in. So if you've got a smaller helmet, you won't, you know, it just kind of covers your head, but not, you know, the space, because your shoulders are hitting the wind. So what that is doing, what that helmet is doing is trying to, you know, when the wind hits it, throw the wind around your shoulders instead of hitting the kind of broad part of your body.
Well, Lasse Norman Let is pretty fast. He's already got the man who started in front of him in sight. That is the Italian Q36.5 rider, Nicolo Parisini. Enzo Leinze, very good time trialist in the under-23s, but yeah, in this race he is just a bit short there. A young Dutchman, Enzo Leinze, part of the Giro Next Gen earlier this year. Will be part of the Tour de l'Avenir, I assume, since that starts tomorrow. You will be able to follow the Tour de l'Avenir and see the big stars of the future in action. It will be on our digital channels daily. There might be some geo restrictions, and Matt Stevens and Jens Dekker will be your guides for the entirety of the race, apart from, I think, the time trial in a morning stage. But last year, only 3 stages. This year we get the entire Tour de l'Avenir on your screens, and so it's very interesting to watch the under-23 scene to see who are the up-and-coming riders. And yeah, if you look at the Arctic Race of Norway, for example, if you follow the under-23 scene, you already might have known Noah Hobbs, who is our current leader there in Norway. Final kilometre here for Mads Østergaard Christensen. The team was very active this week, part of the breakaway almost every day, apart from stage 3 when they were not represented. We have 2 timing points, as I explained, one after 5.2 and one after 10.7, so basically every 5 kilometers. There's a little bit of a delay in the timing system, but now we see that Černý was the fastest at the first point, so after 5k. Frederik Muff the fastest after 10k, and at the finish line just 2 seconds ahead of Frederik Muff was Joseph Černý. He is our current leader. We just saw a little bit of a hiccup there with one of the riders going into that last turn. Yeah, he kept it straight, but there's a little bit of a thing there in that final corner. Fifth place now for Mads Christensen. Louis Bendixen, during the race, Brian, he was the man who regularly was Werenskjol's wingman, always staying with him throughout the stage. And we go from one rider to the other, and have to keep focused here. This is the same team, but this is Lasse Norman Let. He is he's just caught the rider in front of him, Nicola Parisini, and he's already seen the car of the next man that he might be able to catch, and that is Jakob Skube, a Danish rider of the national team, who started 2 minutes in front of him. I'm trying to find some information for you to see what the intermediate times were of Lasse Norman Let, but can't really find anything. So we're getting to the...
He was 6 seconds down at the second checkpoint, so he's to that Muff. At that point, Černý was 7 seconds behind. So, yep. You know, he's got he's within the ballpark. So I would think that you know, Lasse Norman Neth is going to be close to with Czerny. We just saw a glance of the hot seat. I think someone's went out there and nicked someone's front room sofa chair there and just put it on the plinth at the end. But yeah, it looks as if Lasse Norman Neth is going to challenge the top spot here.
Racing is very fast, as we have a shot here of Dan Holer, I assume. Yep, indeed. Judging from this length of this guy. Dan Holer, a very good time trialist from the Netherlands. Still young, but already had some good results in time trials. Second this year in the Netherlands, behind Jos van Emden, which was a bit of a surprise win for Van Emden. Not his first time trial win, but in his last season as a pro, he's announced his retirement. Jos van Emden, he won another time trial title, and the emotions were running high there at the National TT in the town of Elspet. So Van Emden won with 18 seconds on Dan Holer and 24 on Sjoerd Baks. It's not mandatory in the Netherlands to ride the national championship, so we often see that riders are skipping them when they live in Monaco or on altitude or whatever.
Check that out. Lasse Norman Neth, you know, he is one of the fastest in the course at the moment.
This is a road bike.
Yeah, he passed this rider. Okay, yeah, he is on a road bike, but he tried to get a bit of a slipstream, and just look at the effort he's having to make just to try and stay with him.
Interesting to have a rider on a road bike. It's a rider of the national team, and his name is Jakob Skebu, and I just heard the announcer announce him, that I know how to say that. He's just 22, no UCI team that he's part of, so apparently he doesn't have a time trial bike.
Fra Q36 Sverige. Send ham godt afsted. Tobias Ludvigsson.
Here we are with Tobias Ludvigsson, who is, of course, a man with a lot of pedigree when it comes to time trialing. But I think it's also a while ago, Brian, that we have seen him do really well in a time trial.
Yeah, you never lose that, you know, ability.
Aha. That is a pretty fast time. Like I said in the introduction, Brian, Dan Holer is my favourite for the win here.
Well, he's 16 seconds up at the second checkpoint, so you know he should be setting the fastest time. I do believe there are other faster riders in this race, but let's see. You know, we could have a Dutchman winning this time trial today, but this is the man on the course at the moment, coming up towards the finish, and I think he'll be setting very close to the fastest time today.
Some people crossing there with a bike, but a very late crossing. Of course, when riders come every minute or sometimes even faster, it's pretty difficult to cross the road. Roads were closed since 11:30 this morning, so riders could do a warm-up lap. Do you think that all the riders did a warm-up lap, Brian, or is it like for most or for some of them it doesn't really matter?
I think for a lot of them it doesn't really matter what you're going to get out of this. I think if you're looking for a top 10, which we've got about, I'd say maybe 25 riders looking at that. If you're a time trial specialist, then you look at it as well. So, but majority of them, I don't think there's any real, you know, insider if you know what you're looking at.
The time of Joseph Czerny was gone in the final corner there, so at about 175 meters. But still, a good time there for Lasse Norman. That's a third time for him. Of course, his preparation for this Tour of Denmark would have been considerably different than most of these riders here, since he was in full preparation for the World Championships, where he won a gold alongside his three teammates in the team pursuit, with a really, really fast time. Sadly, we didn't see the Team GB boys in action since there was a crash in qualifying. So, yeah, they'll have to go through a different route to qualify for Paris. Not impossible, but slightly more difficult. 18:48 is our fastest time. The average speed of Joseph Černý was 51.3, or, well, 51.4 actually. Fastest time trial we ever had in the Tour of Denmark was actually last year. That was won by Magnus Sheffield with an average speed of 53, actually. 53.8 in Assens last year, won by Magnus Sheffield. He took the lead after that time trial and lost the lead on the final day of the race due to bonus seconds to Christophe Laporte. Got 4 national champions on the start line. We've already had one, didn't see any images of him because it was just before the live, with Lithuanian champion Aivaris Mikutis. Tom Squinch will be one of the last riders, of course, to start since he's in the top 10. Stefan de Bot, the South African champion, racing for EF Education. Easy Post still to come. And, of course, Søren Werenskjold. He is the Norwegian time trial champion. He's currently 6th in the general classification. Brian just briefly touched on that. First is Matthias Skelmose. He's got 4 seconds on Pedersen. 49 on Kort. 104 on Nicola Conchi, 107 on Vermeers, and 109 on Werenskjold. So on such a short distance as we have today, a 16.1, yeah, I do expect it to be between the 2 Lidl Trek riders. That is for later, because the last riders are taken off at 15:23, so 3:23 for Pedersen and 3:25 for Skelmose. I wonder if that is actually correct. We did see the finish there of Tom Scully with the time of an Italian rider who he probably passed along the way. Scully, who's been doing a lot of work at the front of the peloton this week. I'm now totally intrigued, Brian, what that white stripe is below his bib number. Is it part of the costume? Is it, what is it? A piece of paper?
Good question. I'm not too sure myself on that one.
It would be really weird if that was part of your skin suit. Oh, are there any differences, Brian, between skin suits that we use in a road stage, like the past few days, and a time trial? Is it a different skin suit, or do the riders use the same one?
That's a
First
difficult.
First we're going to watch the fastest time. Dan Hole, he's got the fastest time. The time of Joseph Černý is 18:48. He's really given it all, and got a bigger gap in the final 5 kilometers, although only 4 seconds, but 22 seconds up on Joseph Černý, this young man from the Netherlands, Dan Hole. Yeah, this is a man who absolutely gave it his all. Yeah, differences in skin suits. Do riders actually have different skin suits for a time trial?
Well, they're getting very close, aren't they? I think majority. The big difference is, I think most of the speed suits for time trials are long sleeve. They've got the kind of one pocket in the back, as you can see. Normally in the road races, you've got 2 or 3 pockets on the back to carry kind of food and things like that. But they're getting very close. Before there was a bit of a difference, but now everybody's realising that a lot of the aerodynamics and testing that's put into speed suits for time trial is just as good for road racing.
Our current top 10, and Dan Holer in the lead, 23 on Czerny, 25 on Muff, 34 on Let, 42 on Mikutis. That is the top. Yeah, we'll go to our second page now. Ludvigsson is still on the road, trying to establish riders that we need to look forward to in terms of time trialing. I just don't have a lot in the next 20 minutes. So just have a little look at the magnificent castle here in Helsingør, or Elsinore. And I think most Brits do know the play of Hamlet. Every time I watch University Challenge, it's like I find it amazing how well people know the plays of Sheffield. Shakespeare. I had to look everything up because we don't have that tradition here. I have never watched Hamlet, to be honest. Have you ever watched Hamlet?
No, I've had to via school curriculum. I have to read a few books by Shakespeare, but English was not really my subject.
I'm not laughing at you, but
no, that's true. It wasn't my. I've got kind of A levels in, maths, physics, chemistry, geography.
We're so not alike, Graham. We're so not alike.
I'm just not a big reader, and that sort of stuff doesn't really appeal to me. The kind of Shakespeare stuff.
Well, it's basically the ghost of the King of Denmark tells his son Hamlet to avenge his murder by killing the new king, Hamlet's uncle, so also his new stepdad, actually. He seeks revenge for the murder of his father. But then his uncle, so the new husband to his mother, also devises a plot to kill Hamlet. Well, a lot of people get killed. There's a lot of avenging going on. There's ghosts, and it all takes place at the rather magnificent castle of Elsinore. There's always a lot of revenge and murder, all the way back to the Greek plays. A lot of avenging going on in all these plays, including this one. We stay with Louis Bendixen. The time of Dan Holer has long gone, but we stay with this Danish rider. To remind you, the time of Dan Holer was an 18:25. The average speed of the Dutchman is a 52.4 kilometers an hour. Recently, when we had the World Championships in Glasgow and Stirling for the time trials, it's always a great thing for us commentators that riders quite often wear their own helmets, ride their own bikes, but helmets as well, even wearing the national team's clothing, and you can easily recognize riders by their helmets mostly. When we had a team pursuit on the track in Glasgow for women, Eleanor Barker also wore this rather lovely helmet, albeit not in the yellow. It was a white version.
Well, I know that some manufacturers make certain things. Like I know that Ikoi made about 15, 16 helmets, all in the national colours of the riders that actually use them. Because
yeah, I know Belgium has to wear the laser helmets, but a lot of countries allow the riders to wear their own brand helmets.
Yeah, it does make sense. But Ikoi actually put them in a kind of national colours, so so everybody, because they sponsor 4 teams. They sponsor more than 4 teams. They had 4 teams in the Tour de France. They had Cofidis, Arkea, Israel, and Lotto Destiny. So, just a nice touch in it. A few other manufacturers do that as well, whether it's bike manufacturers or just product manufacturers. Just these little things just are a little bit of a boost.
We stay with Ludvigsson here, passing the festivities at the side of the road. Of course, I always like watching a time trial. You get more value for money watching time trials than road stages, unless it's a crit. Ludvigsson is a really, really tall guy, Brian, and I think the UCI just changed the rules for guys over 6'3" or something like that, or 6'2", that they could have different adjustments to the bike, so they could have a little bit more aerodynamic position. Because guys like Ludvigsson almost had to fold themselves on the bike within the UCI regulations for time trial positions. But even riders like Wout van Aert now have more room, as has, for example, Dan Holer.
I don't understand why the UCI have a cut-off. We had a situation with Steve Cummings quite a few years ago, and he got measured. Originally he got measured by the UCI, and he was just over 190. So anybody over 190 could have more room, and they measured him at the end of the race in Tirreno Adriatico, and he was 189, and that was in the afternoon. Everybody knows that as you go through the day, you get slightly smaller anyway. As you start to compress.
I never knew that. I had no idea.
And as you get tired towards the end of a race, or your body, you kind of shrink a little bit as well, just little bits here and there. But yeah, they measured at the start of the year. He was just over 190, I think 191. And they measured him at the race, and he's 189, and so we had to completely change an hour and a half before the time trial started. Completely change, and I think it's ridiculous. That they have a cut-off. So if you're within here, you're allowed this. If you're allowed, why not just do it? If you're going to do it, just do it for every centimetre. You know what I mean, and give people the right room. You cannot stop someone that's 189 and 190. So the difference of 1 centimetre. That is huge when it can, you're talking about a difference of a length of maybe about 3 centimetres.
Fastest time at all 3 checkpoints, it would not surprise you, is Dan Holer. And this is a man who has been in the breakaway on 2 occasions, on stage 2 and 3, really fighting for the King of the Hills classification. He will finish in 2nd place there, because he didn't make it into the breakaway yesterday. Neither did our leader, Nicolai Pedersen. Pedersen was at 40 before yesterday. Stage stayed at 40. And he was at 32, stayed at 32. So he will be runner-up in that classification. Doesn't buy you anything, because Nicolai Pedersen gets himself a trip to the podium to pick up the polka dot jersey here of the King of the Hills sprints. And we call it hills here because the highest point of Denmark is actually 173 meters above sea level. You can hardly call it a mountain. Why are sports directors honking and thinking that will encourage riders? Is that a request by Ludvigsson? Just do that when you drive behind me?
Well, I just don't know some of these sports directors in the past. Some, especially the Spanish ones, they've got the kind of loud hailer on the front of the car, and they constantly shouting. No real indication of why he was honking the car. Sometimes if you come into a town and you get people crossing and things like that, it's a warning for that. But that doesn't encourage anybody. Whoever thinks that banging a horn behind a rider is going to help them, encourage them in a time trial this short, I don't know. I really don't know. They've looked at the course. They've got radio, it's not that technical. A lot of these kind of time trial specialists and these guys don't really need much information. It's just the technical parts. They don't need the encouragement. You know, in a 10-mile, 16-kilometer time trial, you go flat out. That's it. There's nothing technical about it. There's nothing. You know what you have to do. You ride at your wattage, and you give it your best. It's not been an overly difficult last few days. So yeah, just honking the horn, I just don't understand.
This is Jack Bauer. We have seen him at the front of the peloton a lot. 38-year-old on his way for his time trial. And there is Mark Stewart on the podium. Yeah, like I explained before, our course is basically, we leave the town of Helsingør, then we go to the east. We make a little loop around a small town called Nygård, and then we end up on the exact same road back, albeit with a headwind. So we got a tailwind going out, a headwind coming back in.
I can only think that flash at the back is just the kind of label of the product.
It's the brand, I think, because they all have it. First I thought, oh, maybe something to secure your number, but most of these suits nowadays have these pockets, integrated pockets, where you can just get your bib number in. Our next finisher is Tobias Ludvigsson. Fastest time is Dan Hole at 18:25, but he still has 200 meters to go. We'll lose over a minute there. Tobias Ludvigsson. Of course, a man who had fantastic results in the past in time trials. But today is not going to be that day. Here we're looking at Michael Mørkø, who will take the start a minute from now. There he is. A good cheer there for Michael Mørkø, who is, of course, a very popular rider in Denmark. You can hear the speaker say Michael Mørkø. Yeah. In Dutch, commentators often say Morkov.
It's just a pronunciation.
And just ignore the sounds. But I've been saying Morkov for 7-8 years, so going to Mørkø is still feels a bit weird.
Yeah, but you read it Morkov because that's what it's that's what it's like. It's K-O-V, as you can see on the screen. So in France they call me Brian Smit.
Well, find out what they do with Bauke Mollema. He's 38, this man. He is end of contract, like many people actually at Soudal Quick-Step, including the likes of Tim de Klerk. Also, for example, he's been part of this team since 2018. Of course, also a formidable pilot with Mark Cavendish in the past in this team now. Very important for Fabio Jacobsen, for Tim Merlier. Although Bert van Lerbergen quite often works with Tim Merlier nowadays. But doesn't have a contract for next year just yet. It seems like the market at the moment is a bit on hold, apart from Lidl Trek, who announce riders almost every day. But not a lot of new contract extensions or new riders being announced. Might be because, as I read in the paper today, Patrick Lefevere is on holiday.
Well, like me.
Like you and like me from tomorrow. But I don't have to sign new riders because I don't have a team. And if I had the money, I would have had, I think, a women's team. Because it's a lot cheaper. You can see these new, we call them Dutch, we call them boleros. These new tops that they have, the aerodynamic sleeves that you kind of wear underneath your time trial suit. I saw that SD Worx had them in the Tour de France as well. A new product for even more aerodynamics. Here we have the man in the green jersey. He is on 42 points, and that is also the amount of points that Mads Pedersen has. Like a road stage, we do have points in the time trial as well. Fabio Jakobsen in the green leaders jersey. He won 2 stages. He's got 42 points. That's the exact same amount of points as Mads Pedersen. But on today's stage, the first 12 riders do get points towards the green jersey classification. I am pretty sure that Fabio Jakobsen will not be one of those 12 riders. But who knows? Mads Pedersen might be.
I would think Mads Pedersen would be. He'll pick up some points. I don't think Fabio Jakobsen is too interested. Saying that, this is a distance that he could do well. You know, when you can sprint, and you get, you know, the amount of watts that these guys do at the end of a race, that you can normally the kind of sprinters can do a kind of short time trial.
We also had 2 riders not taking the start. That is Ollie Jones for the Bolton Equities Black Spoke team. He's going to travel to France to race the Tour de Poitou-Charentes. And James Shaw, he also didn't take the start because James is racing in Hamburg tomorrow. The Beymer Cyclassics. Just like Tim de Klerk, for example. So we do see some riders tomorrow that we have seen racing here who go for the double. And the Beymer Cyclassics is a race that's on tomorrow. Let me check. It's a World Tour race with Rob Hatch and Adam Blythe, and will be on from 2:25 European time, so 1:25 UK time. A race that's had many names, the Hamburg Cyclassics. It's now called the Beymer Cyclassics. Normally it's a sprinter race, and it will be on tomorrow for you to enjoy. So Soudal Quickstep are racing there, but they're not racing with Jakobsen, they're racing with Tim Merlier as their sprinter. But this is the image of a man who is just finishing this race, Brian.
Yeah, going through the motions like many riders. You know, he's done his job, been very successful this week. A couple of stage wins. He'll be happy with that, happy with his form.
At the moment, Soudal Quickstep has got 20 riders on their roster for 2024. They promoted a few of their youngsters, including Giel Gelders, a stage winner in the Giro. William Lesser is coming over, and Warre van Geluwe, which is already going to be a nightmare for everybody not speaking Dutch. So 20 riders on their roster for next year. Signing some young guys. Luc Lamperti is coming over as well, the exciting American sprinter. Some big names leaving, including, of course, Fabio Jakobsen. But no place just yet for Michael Mørkøv or Tim de Klerk. And those are riders who've been part of the team for quite some time. And contracts may have been signed already, but just not announced just yet. It's not like everybody does it the way that Q36.5 does it. One press release, 7 new riders. This is it. This is going to be our roster for next year. Don't expect a trickle down every day like Lidl Trek does. And this is that part of the course where we just do a little loop around the town of Nygard. And then we go back to that road we just saw where riders are passing each other. We're staying with Merkur here as he approaches that first intermediate timing point. We've had time trials here before. In 2006, it was Fabian Cancellara winning the time trial here in Helsingør. In 2011, it was Richie Port, and in 2015, Mats Wirt Schmidt was the winner here. Tour of Denmark has a time trial every year. Of course, 2021, it was Remco Evenepoel. Last year, it was Magnus Sheffield. And 16.1 is actually the longest we've ever done here in Helsingør. Top 5 at the finish as we speak. Dan Hole in first place. Joseph Czerny, 23 seconds down in second. Frederik Muff, 25 seconds down. Lasse Norman Let, 34 seconds. And Miguel Heidemann just crossed the finish line for the Leopard TOGT team in fifth place, 38 seconds down on Dan Hole. I've already made it clear that Dan Hole is my big favourite. Who do you want to put on the table to prove me wrong?
Mads Pedersen.
Short and sweet. Yeah, Pedersen, he did a lot of time trial training in 2022. Leading up, of course, to that all-important time trial in the Tour de France in Copenhagen. That was 13.2 kilometers. It is a perfect distance for him. He's been doing really well in time trials. Of course, not that one that we had in the Tour de France, since it was pretty much uphill. But even despite that, I thought he did, but he was 9th, actually. I completely forgot about that, but I'm just checking it. It was 9th on that 2.5 kilometer finish climb in Combloux. That is a solid result. I forgot about that.
Yeah, there's a couple of good. It really depends on form. I know that Magnus Cort can ride a good time trial. Warren's called as well. He's a national champion. He just might. Norwegian national champion just wants to maybe rub it into the Danish here. But it's whether they're on form. Storen Kragh has done it in the past as well. So it's what you've got on the day. But I really do think that Mads Pedersen, what he's shown so far this week, he really is a man on form.
Look at this list of results. There's 3 time trial wins in the career of Mads Pedersen. The first coming in 2017 in that Tour de Poitou-Charentes. In 2018 here in the Tour of Denmark. And of course earlier this year in Alès, also slightly uphill, although not as uphill as the Tour de France one in the Étoile de Bessèges. This is Julius Johansson getting ready for his time trial. When it comes to Dan Hole, my favourite, this would be his first pro win if he pulls it off. But we'll have to wait all the way to the end of the coverage of this time trial, because Mads Pedersen is going to take the start in 53 minutes, Brian.
Exactly.
Well, I usually tend to leave the calculating and maths to you, because I absolutely am rubbish at it.
Yeah, the last 11 riders, or 2 minutes of a difference between them.
Yep. Mirko is about to catch the Minuteman, the man in front of him, Alessandro Santaromita. Third place yesterday for the Green Project Bardiani team with Luca Colnaghi. But it's bye-bye Alessandro. Not to be confused with Ivan Santaromita, who a little bit of a more dodgy past. What are the rules, Brian, for overtaking a rider?
You just go past them. It's the more the rider that is overtaken, he can't sit in the slipstream. He has to kind of allow the pass to be made, and you know, keep his distance and not sit behind the rider that is already passed.
Are there like times, amount of seconds that you can stay within the draft of the rider in front of you, or will the commissaires, because there's no, this is still 127 riders, that's not 127 commissaires in the convoy?
No, there won't. You know, there'll be as many as possible kind of spread out, but you know, I think it's about 50 meters you have to give. If you get past, you have to allow, you know, 50 meters. You get within, you really can't sit in the slipstream at all.
The next Minuteman here for Mirko is going to be Stewart, Mark Stewart, as we see the finish of Ramon Sinkeldam, former Dutch road champion. Pretty decent lead out yesterday. Maybe, just maybe, if he just kept on sprinting himself, he could have won. But he was doing a lead out there for Jensen Plowright, glancing over his shoulder for the young Kiwi to follow him. But he was fifth in the end, Plowright was.
I think it was Plowright that maybe made a bit of a mistake. He ended up leading out Jakobsen. But, you know, learning the ropes. Sinkeldam, yeah, it was a good lead out. I don't think he could have gone, you know, another 100 metres. He was absolutely spent going for that lead out, so he put everything into it. So I think Plowright, just under the circumstances, ended up leading out, you know, the eventual winner. But I think Jakobsen was always going to win that stage anyway.
Final 300 metres here for Jack Bauer. The fastest time is long gone at 18:25. But his time trial is over. Also, no announced contract just yet for Jack Bauer. He's getting on a little bit, 38 at the moment. And as we've seen in the previous stages, still very valuable when it comes to supporting a team. His experience in all these years on the road, but also just leading the peloton for a sprinter like he did with Matteo Moschetti the other day. This is a man I'm interested in to see how far he will get. Of course, a rider with a fantastic track record on the track, being part of the 2020 gold medal squad for Denmark. He's not part of the Team Pursuit of Denmark anymore, but he did win gold with them in 2020, also in 2017. Former Omnium world champion as well. So a very versatile rider. This Julius Johansson comes from the Intermarché Vanti team, as you can see from his helmet. And look at this fantastic view on the Elsinore Castle. Not a lot has changed in our top 10, apart from the fact that Mark Stewart has just crossed the finish line just ahead of Mørkøv and is currently in 10th position. So we just saw, well, we didn't see, but we know that Mark Stewart just finished his time trial. And now we're in the final kilometre with Mørkøv, who's taking every inch of the course here. And he might actually get himself into the top 10 just ahead of Stewart. And that is exactly what he is going to do. 10th place now for Michael Mørkøv. Michael Valgren ready for his time trial. You can still see the wounds from his crash 2 days ago through the skin suit. And he's off for his 16.1 kilometers. Michael Valgren, Hundal. Here we are with Niklas Larsen, Danish rider for the UNO-X team. Also a fantastic track rider. He had one season where he was almost unbeatable. Absolute fantastic track cycling history in Denmark, both men and women, of course, with Let and Didriksen winning medicines. We have the Ballerup Arena, where we had the Copenhagen 6 days. I don't know if it still exists. It's dire times for 6 days races. It's pretty clear, Brian, that the TV director favours to follow the UNO-X riders today. Oh, we have a crash with Johansson. That is not a great place to take a rest. Looks like he completely overcooked a turn here. Yeah, we don't have to translate that. It was pretty clear. He was pretty unhappy. Let's see what happened there. Yeah, just completely overcooked the turn. Oof. Oh, that is a nasty crash. This is completely his own fault. And almost hitting these people there. Luckily, nobody got hurt, apart from Johansson. But he was just not looking forward. Yeah, it's absolutely no use, of course, to continue. He's going to continue on a road bike. But he just got off-road there, Brian.
It's what happens when you know, that position of putting your hands and, you know, your head together, just not really looking at. It's not for the first time I've seen that happen. In other time trials, I've seen riders not look. I think it happened in Yorkshire, the World Championships as well, with a few riders hitting puddles because they just weren't kind of looking. They didn't see the kind of standing water. They were just intent and just, you know, the aerodynamics, and that was a clear case of that as well.
Michael Valgren in the colours of EF Education EasyPost. Sadly, the news came today that the EF Education women's team, TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank, will be no more next year. They shared the same lead sponsor, EF Education, but were two different entities. The World Tour, Women's World Tour license was held by Linda Jackson. And she said today in a statement on Cycling News that she hadn't secured new sponsorship for next year. So that team will fold. There will be, of course, a women's team by the name of EF Education EasyPost. That is a structure that is connected to the men's team. Former Jumbo-Visma manager Esra Tromp is going to be the new manager. And they already announced, Veronica Ewers to be one of the riders there next year. And with the riders of the current EF Education TIBCO Silicon Valley Bank team on the market, we'll see who ends up there. Yeah, this is what just happened, Brian, with Julius Johansson. A really nasty crash. And this is what happens when you, don't keep your eyes on the road, basically.
Just lucky
for the people there.
Yeah, it could have been so much worse.
Yeah, the repeat we just saw just started a little bit too late. But he was going, well, he was almost hitting the spectators there in that corner, getting off the road on the grass and then going, full speed somersault, just barely avoiding the elderly people there on the side of the road watching the bike racing. Luckily, it seems like none of the people got hurt there, but that could have ended really, really badly for the spectators and for the rider as well, who is most likely going to be very sore tomorrow and the day after, and taking a souvenir with him.
Really unfortunate, but he's so lucky. Spectators and, no injury or anything like that. It's so lucky.
Søren Kragh is going to take the start in 2 minutes from now. Already success earlier today for the Alpecin-de-Koning team in the Baltic Chain Tour, which is, as we say, in the Baltic. It was Henry Ulik, one of their development team riders, winning the stage there. I think they're actually racing in 4 different places at the moment, the Alpecin-de-Koning team. So their development team and the World Tour squad. Busy weekend.
Left.
Go left.
I said left.
Yeah, very helpful.
Overshot it a little bit.
We're just trying to
see
help.
This man here can pull out really good time trial out the back. I'm just not too sure he's on the form that he needs to.
He did get a win this year for his new team. Of course, a man who won 2 Tour de France stages in 1 year, Søren Krogh, and rather magnificent wins at it. I think it was a stage into Lyon that he won, and then yeah, it was the stage into Lyon with a very late surge there through the streets of Lyon. Really a fantastic win by Søren Krogh. That was in the COVID Tour de France in 2020. His last win was Eschborn-Frankfurt. Sorry?
He's at it again. He's on his road bike, but he's just, you know, putting his head down.
But, oh yeah, yeah. Because if he now ends up on the side of the road, I would seriously have him checked for concussion. But this is, of course, completely useless. Yeah, and look at the levers there, Brian. They're almost completely.
Yeah, that's his road position. He's doing puppy paws. You can't do it. You can do it in a time trial. You can't do it in the road. But he's puppy paws, putting his head down. You know, he's just not concentrating. Oh, he was concentrating, but more on the aerodynamics than where he was actually going.
Looks like we do have a new name in the top 10, although we haven't seen him finish this race, and that is Martin Svricek of the Soudal Quick-Step team, the man who got himself a bronze medal in the under-23 road race in Glasgow. Looks like he has slotted into 6th place at the moment at the finish line in a time of 19:05. Jonas Rutsch, more a guy for the classics.
Jonas Rutsch fra IF Easy Boat går ind her næsten 2 minutter efter Dan Hole.
Must be Sébastien Grignard. It is indeed. He was in the breakaway on day 1. And really went all out and finds himself in the top 10 for what it's worth at the moment. A 9th place there for Sébastien Grignard. We're back to Michael Valgren. Don't really have intermediate times at the moment. This is Magnus Kort in his warm-up just before we had a shot of Mads Pedersen and Mathias Skelmose. As a sports director, Brian, in this case, a Danish sports director, Kim Andersen, doesn't really matter who wins, does it? Both Danish. Just fight it out on the road, these two.
That's all it is. It's the I'd say the fastest man today. I know there's 4 seconds between them, but it's whoever's got the legs today. Fastest man wins, and I think in this course it really does suit. Definitely suits Mads Pedersen and the power that he's got, but Skelmose is riding really well, so potentially it could be closer than what most people think.
Dan Hole has been in the hot seat almost an hour now. He finished the race around an hour ago, more or less. So he will have to wait basically another hour before we know the outcome. So it might be 2 hours in the hot seat for Dan Holer, only to be beaten by the last or second to last guy off the ramp. Always hate it when that happens. Just let you listen to the sound of that bike, because it's a fantastic sound here by Michael Valgren. Going to stay with him a little bit longer. Good to see him back at his level that he should be. There was a crash in June of 2022. Looks like something happened here. Somebody went off-road as well. Oh, Søren Kragh Andersen. This was either a very necessary sanitary break, but I do think this was another overcooked turn where you just said the other rider go left, Brian. Maybe you should have said it here as well. Oof. What why? This is just weird.
Yeah, you should know that corner. The sports director should know that corner and warn the rider. I know when you're doing a recon, you don't go as fast as you do in racing, but that was just a mistake that you didn't have to make.
There's actually 5 corners in this entire course. Here's Julius Johansson, who well, really got off well, as did the spectators that he almost hit. But he will not look back upon this day with a bright smile.
No, not at all. Just looking at that, Søren Kragh. I was riding Tour l'Avenir, Tour EEC. It's a team time trial. I think there was 5 of us left at that moment. I was first into the corner, and I was in a little bit too hot. Decent time by Florian Stork there, just within 30 seconds. So yeah, just went in a little bit hot and had to jump onto the pavement and back on again. But unfortunately, the kind of whiplash at the back meant that the teammate at the back, Nicholas Larsson, doing a really good ride here. 16 seconds, almost 17 seconds down. A lot to bring back in the last kind of 5 kilometres, but definitely put him right up there, and possibly a top 3 performance so far. Yeah,
but
so
what
the
happened
whiplash
in the Tour l'Avenir, yeah?
Yeah, it's the last rider just, kind of all of us kind of jumped, but because he was going in a little bit hotter than me, even over the hedge. So there's a kind of hedge, and he disappeared over the hedge. So the team manager, they came round the corner, 5 riders, they came out. It wasn't until they got on to the kind of straighter part of the road again that they looked and went, there's only 4 riders left. What happened to the other one? And of course you can't go back on the course. You can't drive back on the course or anything like that.
No, that's absolutely not allowed, no.
So the rider, now working for Great Britain, and he was at the World Championships, yeah, just had to ride in towards the finish on his own and get himself back. So luckily the team car noticed that Søren Kragh, imagine going into the corner there with Søren Kragh, and then he goes straight into the bushes, and you come round in a team car and think, where's he going?
Well, that was just weird. 5 corners in this entire course, and yeah, this is the only. Well, there's 2 90-degree turns. This one that we just saw, and the one at the finish at 200 meters. Here we are with the South African champion. Great job here by Rafa with this design. Very stylish. Stefan de Bot. And we're back with Nicolas Larsen. Like you said, Brian, a good intermediate time. 18 seconds might be a little bit too ambitious to get back in that final 5K. But so far, so good here for Nicolas Larsen. But if you're at this point in the general classification, it doesn't really matter if you are 3rd or 6th or 7th in a time trial, I guess. And Nicolas Larsen started the day at 6 minutes and 51 seconds, or at 6:51. I hope the bib number stays in the pocket. What? Why, sir? Is that really necessary? Crossing just 2 meters in front of a rider? Ugh. There's people going to the beach or something, Brian. Taking their beach chairs with them.
Yeah, it's very popular cycling, maybe for 99% of the nation, but you know, no matter where you are, there's always that kind of 1%.
That will not be stopped because they are on their way to shopping or their grandma or whatever. But there's nobody going to tell them to stop because there is a pesky bike race going on. On the other side of the water is Sweden, by the way. If you go, we're slightly to the north of Copenhagen, still on the island of Zeeland. As we have the finish of Michael Valgren Andersen. It was in 2022, June of 2022. He had that absolutely horrific crash in La Route d'Occitanie in the French Pyrenees. A fractured pelvis, a ruptured ACL, MCL and meniscus in his knee. But he's back, luckily. Nicolas Larsen, 2nd place there for him. 14 seconds. He did take a few seconds back in that last part, Brian, but not enough.
Yeah, good ride. Very good ride. You know, faster towards the end, but it's just a little bit too much to take back. But 2nd, I think he'll take that. It's all about performance. You know, a lot of people are not going to finish in the top 10 today, but it's, you know, some riders go out there with kind of personal ambitions, especially this man here, Stefan de Bod. He's got personal ambition. He's a national champion in this discipline. You want to show off your colours well, so I would think that Stefan would. He wants to really kind of challenge in this event today and try and win it. Whether he can or not, we'll have to kind of wait and see until the first couple of checkpoints.
This is Kasper Pedersen. Ooh, that is an interesting intermediate time. Just 8 seconds behind Dan Hole at this point for Kasper Pedersen. One of our 6 Pedersens in the race. We still have one to go, because we're almost at the top 10 of our GC. Coming in is Florian Stork, rider of the DSM Feminich team. It's part of the team since the development setup. One of these riders announced in that press release to the Tudor Pro Cycling team for 2024 to 2026. I said Q36.5 a little while ago, but I meant Tudor. Stop the time. 1 yoke. Andreas Stockbro Nielsen, a rider who's been around for a while, usually part of teams in Denmark. As we quickly continue with our next rider of the Bolton Equities team. This is Logan Curry. Logan is currently 3rd in the classification for best young rider. Actually 2nd. And that is still an interesting classification coming up. Because our leader, Casper Andersen, has only got 3 seconds on this man, on Logan Curry, when it comes to the best young rider. So there's still a lot to win for Logan Curry to secure that classification. In 3rd place, we find Tobias Svarre of the Colloquit team at 24 seconds, and the rest in the young rider classification are over 2 minutes down. But an interesting battle between Casper Andersen of the Danish national team, who will take the start imminently, or just did, and Logan Curry. On the ramp as we speak is Ruben Apers of the Flanders Baloise team, and then at 15:03 it's Tom Squinch. Then we have Christian Sparalje, Matthias Breinhoy, and then we end up in the top 10 with Magnus Bak, Klaris, Vito Braat, Brent van Moer, Alexander Kamp, Søren Wereldskjold, Florian Vermeers, Nicola Conchi, Magnus Kort, Mes Pedersen, and Matthias Skelmose. And our top 10, of course, start 2 minutes apart. This man, Casper Pedersen, only a handful of seconds behind Dan Hole at the 10-kilometer point.
Så han kan altså også godt på egen hånd. Han starter om et lille øjeblik. Gennem sympatisk, lettisk mester. Send ham godt afsted. Tom Squinch! Forleden dag, da vi stod på scenen i...
That was the start of Tom Squinch, the Latvian national champion. In the time trial, Emils Lipins, his teammate at Lidl Trek, is the road champion. Of course, Tom Squinch has been the road champion quite a few times as well. They kind of just share the jersey there, Brian. Like, they already have the design for the team. You know, you don't have to have a new design. You can just share it.
Yeah, the national champs in some of these kind of smaller kind of cycling nations, it's not easy because everybody goes there with one thing in mind to try and get that jersey. Luckily the kind of strongest man wins in the end. But yeah, Tom Squinch has had a good career, just lacking a little bit in this race here. Looking at the way his team is ridden here, but definitely up there in the general classification and looking to stay there.
Yeah, he just dropped out of the top 10 yesterday, Tom Squinch, now in 13th place. We just missed the start of Christian Sparalje, who was in 12th, and this is Matthias Breinhoy, a rider from Violet. So he had a home race there 2 days ago. Matthias Breinhoy, he's 27. Always part of teams from Denmark. For many years, the BHS team from Bornholm. 2022 is part of Rival, and now the Leopard team, which technically is... Yeah, technically it's a Danish team now. Yeah, Søren Kragh Andersen, 46 seconds down. Even if he had kept that turn, Brian, he would not have had the fastest time. But this is a man that we're looking out for, because at the intermediate point, there was a good time for Casper Pedersen, but the time of Hole is already gone. That was 18:25. And the second time is now gone, but the third time is feasible, and that is what Casper Pedersen does. Earlier this year won a race in Portugal called the Figueroa Champions Classic, which I think was actually for the first time, so call it a Champions Classic is quite ambitious. This is Magnus Bak Klaris, one of these riders who has been part of the Danish scene for quite some time. If I recall correctly, he is a former junior Paris-Roubaix winner. Yes, indeed. In 2014, and I think that was the time when Denmark had like 3 or 4 champions in a row. And then for a while, it was up to the Dutch again. Dan Hole, Larsen, Pedersen, Tjerney, Muff, Let, Jenno Bergmus in the top 10. Heidemann, Schwitschek and Stock. But if we look at the results of Magnus Bak, it's typically one of these riders, Brian, who was absolutely top of the bill when he was a junior rider, and then going into under 23s, also still very good, but never really made that step up. And I always find it really interesting that some riders who were so good as juniors and under 23s, just for one reason or the other, never really had the opportunity, were never in the right time at the right moment. But he has always been part of these smaller teams in Denmark.
It doesn't happen a lot, but from time to time we get riders like this. When I do kind of team building and things, or rebuild teams, I'm always looking for people that still have a point to prove, or just need to be kind of retrained, more kind of mentality than anything else. So,
but if you look at his result, he was second at the national championships this year in Denmark.
Yeah.
He had a lot of top 10s, wins on the Danish and Norwegian national circuit, former winner of the Grand Prix Herning. Well, you've already explained only the biggest of riders win there. He would fit perfectly in the UNO-X team. But he's 27, and are they still taking a chance on him?
Yeah, it's a chance. It's more a mentality than anything else. He's definitely got the physical side. It's more the mental side. Maybe he doesn't like, being part of the, a big team. Traveling the world. Some riders, or some athletes, don't always like that. So it's a little bit each to their own. And it's very, very difficult as an individual. You know what I mean? I'm not saying at a young age he was, he's the top man and kind of rested in his laurels. So I always say this: when you get into World Tour, that's your start. That's when you start. It's just a case of trying to kind of get there. But look, I don't know him personally.
Nope.
This that you can't do from 193, so he's risking.
No, this is not okay.
A fine. Yeah, he's risking a fine here. And a time penalty. So, he's. I've seen it happen before, where you'll just take it. You just take it because you just want to get to the finish. But yeah, no real reason to do this.
No, this is Kasper Andersen. He is our best young rider with 193. He's only got 3 seconds on Logan Curry.
Yeah, that's the reason. He's just, for me there, it was a definite, slipstream. Mm-hmm. And I think if the commissaires watching the TV, maybe if there's not a commissaire round, because you said you can't follow everybody, that's a definite fine and penalty there. So he may have already lost 20 seconds by doing that. Gaining maybe 5-10 seconds, but losing 20 seconds in a penalty.
Yeah, that would be a sorry way to lose your GC. We're now into. It was very clear. That was, you've just explained it. That is absolutely not the way you should be doing it. On the start podium, getting ready now is Brent van Moer, who had a good Tour de Wallonie, Tour of Wallonia at the end of July. Third place there for Brent van Moer. We had that ridiculously long time trial there of 35 something kilometers. won by Gunnar ahead of Josh Tarling. This is Alexander Kamp. Here we have Søren Werenskjold. They also had the mould already ready for the national champions jerseys at Uno-X. They only have 2 countries to choose from, basically, because they only have Danish and Norwegian riders. And you can just like have the design exactly the same way, but then with a white cross. I'm quite curious to see what this man can do. Of course, if you've not been following every stage, he was in the lead and then lost over a minute due to a rear wheel puncture, and then dropped back to 7th place. Yesterday he made up 1 place again, but he's still 109 down on Skelmose and 105 on Nes Pedersen. That seems way too big a gap to make up in just 16 kilometers. But Werenskjold is one of the contenders for a stage win here.
Yeah, definitely. I think he'll be very close to the stage win, and I think he'll be top 3, all thirds at the end of the day.
Oof, ambitious. This man, he is fighting for the best young rider jersey. And as you can see from the cornering there by Logan Curry, he is doing an absolute magnificent job at it. His team manager, Frankie van Azenbroeke, already told me he has got big hopes for the future for Logan Curry. Really able to develop into a rider for GCs. Still a young guy, the 22-year-old from Ashburton in New Zealand. He just turned 22 in June. It's not going to be at the time of Dan Hole, but he has to look at the time of Kasper Andersen to see if he has that jersey, if he wins that classification. Here we are back with Stefan de Bot, the South African champ. 18:25 is our time to beat. There is the final kilometre on the horizon. Still has got a minute, well, less than a minute, so that's of course absolutely impossible unless you ride 70k in hours in that final kilometre. He's not even there yet, so not the fastest time, but a good result there for Stefan de Bot. Logan Curry is the national champion, time trial in New Zealand, in the under-23s, but just like with the women's category, the under-23s, Ali Wollaston and Logan Curry were actually faster than the elite riders. Which I find weird. Then why don't you award them an elite title? Both of them. Logan Curry is faster than the winner of the elite title in New Zealand, and Ali Wollaston as well. But yet they don't get to wear the national jersey because they are under 23 national champion.
Maybe they should have entered the elite, because it happened in the UK with Josh Tarling. He decided that he was going straight to the elite instead of under 23.
Well, in the Netherlands we had this. Oh, what happened here with Stefan de Bot? Looks like his chain dropped or something in that final 200 meters. Oh, that is heartbreak. Well, a lot of fans here for the Norwegian rider, the only Norwegian on the team. In the Netherlands, there is no different category. But it's a really weird regulation, Brian. You cannot enter that category, but you just get the jersey when you are under 23 and apparently not eligible for an elite title.
Well, I'm certain, you know, when we see it, that you know, our national champion is Josh Tarling. And he decided not to ride the under 23. He went straight into the elite time trial and won it, beat Fred Wright. So I don't know what it's like in different countries, whether you can do that, but surely if you can do it in one country, you can do it in another. So maybe they should have just gone in with the elite field and they would have won and they would have taken the jersey.
Five more riders to start from this part. Florian Vermeers, the Belgian rider of Lotto Destiny. Nicola Conci, the Italian of Alpecin de Koning. Magnus Kort, Danish rider of EF Education. Then Mes Pedersen and Matthias Skelmose. He starts 9 minutes from now. Our race leader, of course, both from the Lidl Trek. Formation. This man is a former under-23 world champion. And therefore one of our favourites for the overall title. On the other side of the water is Sweden. If you have the bridge at Copenhagen to Malmö, which you might know from the fantastic series called The Bridge or Brun with Saga. If you haven't seen it, see it, especially the first season, absolutely fantastic. But here you have to take the ferry to Sweden. There's no bridge. It's basically just they find a body, Brian, on the middle of the bridge, like half in Sweden, half in Denmark, and then they have to work together. And of course the Danish policeman is very open and nice, and the Swedish policewoman is troubled, to say the least.
So there's no point watching it now, you've just spoiled it.
No, I'm not telling you what the murder is about. I'm just saying the two characters. But the first season was the absolute best season. I think they made 3 or 4. There was a remake in America, which I would not advise. Just go for the original Danish-Swedish co-production called Brun, B-R-O-N. To watch something on your holidays. From tomorrow you don't have any Tour of Denmark anymore, Brian. You have to keep yourself occupied. Oh my God. Oof.
I was going to say earlier on, there's a few riders having some trouble with that corner.
Yeah, it's that thing there.
It's like you're cutting across. It's as if there's a kind of dent in the road.
Normally, if somebody was on the floor, you would stabilize him. But now, of course, they have to get him out of the road as soon as possible, because a minute from now, the next man is going to finish his time trial there. But that was a really nasty. You can see that they painted that ridge there. You see, that was probably where it happened before. Top 10 place at the moment for Andreas Stockbro. Logan Curry, good time. Haven't seen the finish of Kasper Andersen yet.
I think he may be in because
he was behind Logan Curry. Yeah.
Yeah, with we went to Warrenskold starting with Stefan de Vod, just at his incident, and he was finished, so I think he's already in.
But we don't know his time, or haven't been able to find it. We do know that Logan Curry is in the top 10 and that Kasper Andersen didn't finish in front of him, so that means that Logan Curry wins that jersey for Best Young Rider and the classification for Best Young Rider. But that image of seeing Filippo Mallier face down on the ground was a shocking one. Dan Ole still holds that fastest time, as we have Magnus Bach Klaris. The next reference there will be Søren Werenskjold, but we'll have to wait another 8 minutes for that moment. Magnus Kort.
9 etaper har han I alt vundet I de 3 store Tours.
And winning stages in the Vuelta, the Tour and the Giro is what the announcer is explaining. of course, that that Vuelta of 2016 when he won 2 stages, including the one in Madrid. He won in the Tour de France in 2018 and 3 stages in the 2021 Vuelta. And this year, he completed the trilogy. So he's one of the 100-odd riders, active riders, who have stage wins in all 3 Grand Tours. He did that on stage 10 in the Giro to Viareggio. And that was from a breakaway with who else but Derek Guy in 2nd place. Here we are with Werenskjold. This is going to be an interesting rider, Brian, to see the reference. We had a 6:09 at the first timing point. Well, we haven't seen the timing point apparently for Werenskjold, so we'll have to wait for the second one, which was a 12:24 for Dan Hole. Mads Pedersen, 3 time trial wins in his career. The last one being in February in the Étoile de Bessèges.
Dag, da han er færdig med PostNord Danmark Rundt. Han er 4 sekunder efter.
31 wins already for this man. And he's also one of the club of the riders who won stages in 3 Grand Tours. Also completing that feat this year with stage 6 in the Giro d'Italia. "31 wins on his palmarès, the last one being, of course, the stage in the Tour de France. His results so far: a 3rd, a 5th, a 2nd and a 2nd place for Mads Pedersen in the Tour of Denmark. He's a former winner of the GC here back in 2017 when he was still 21. And now, yeah, who knows, another stage win in the Tour of Denmark. After, well, being so close on, well, basically 4 occasions, it would be nice to see Mads Pedersen win the stage. He's your favourite for the day.
Yep, definitely. You know, he's shown all week that he's very, very consistent, super strong, on really good form. So, but Werenskjold is the other one for me. Let's see what he does at the time check out in the course when we did split screen there. He does look, you know, big and powerful. But you know, this man here, Mads Pedersen, I think he is the, for me anyway, the man to beat today.
Skjelmose, he is not wearing a skin suit provided by the organisers in blue. We did see that, for example, with our best young rider, Casper Andersen, who was wearing a white jersey. I wonder what happened. Maybe they didn't have his size, because normally, Brian, you are obliged, you have to wear that skin suit of the organisers in the colours of the leader's jersey.
You do. I would assume they would have the size, but I think he's just made the choice that...
Can you? Because
you shouldn't really. I don't think there might be a... I don't think there'll be a time penalty, but definitely I think there'll be a fine for doing that.
Yeah, because, you know, there's so much research going into these time trial suits. And if you could just, like, say in the Tour de France, I'm sticking with my own time trial suit and I'm not taking the Santini one that the Tour de France provides, because mine is 3 watts per kilometre faster. You can't do that. So I wonder what's happened here. Mathias Skjelmose, he is the Danish road champion. The Danish time trial champion is Kasper Asgreen. And that was the last rider off the ramp.
So we should know in 19 minutes.
Also, his number is weirdly obscured, which is probably another 200 francs fine. Might be a costly day there for Matthias Skjelmose. Because if your number is invisible, it's usually another 200 Swiss franc fine.
Yep. Do you think he's worried too much about that at the moment?
No, I don't think either. We'll have to look at the time of Dan Hole at the second time point, and that was a 12:24. I do hope we stay with Søren Werenskjold until he gets there, and that is the timing point that we find after 10.7 kilometers. I asked Jacob of the Lidl Trek team. The zipper broke after he finished his warming up. So that might also be the reason that the bib number was fumbled in the back pocket. This was a very last minute thing.
Jon Kennison.
Jacob Kennison, yeah.
Yeah.
Press officer.
Yeah, I know him well. I know his dad very well.
He's a lovely guy.
And his uncle.
Is he Scottish?
No, they're from Kent. They're from the Medway.
Yeah.
Medway Velo.
I know their other press officer, Amy, usually with the women's team, is Scottish. But, yeah, this is very interesting. It is very close here. It's almost the same time. 0.8 of a second there between him and Dan Hole.
Yeah, Werenskjold is riding well, super well, and it's not just about the stage. He wants to get on the podium today, and I think he will with the performance he's going to get in. I think the other day with that puncture, untimely, going for the win, he would have hoped to do today. You got to remember he won the first stage, and he had quite a few seconds in many riders. I think he had 18 seconds on Mads Pedersen at that moment. So I think the Queen stage was the stage that did the damage, and that was when Werenskjold had that puncture, unfortunately, and lost a lot of that time. But I do think with the performance today he's picking out that he will finish on the podium.
Magnus Kort, 49 seconds down, and now we're back with, I assume this is Mads Pedersen, judging from the size of his calves. Most definitely not Skjelmose. Put in a lot of training, Brian, before that time trial in Copenhagen. Not necessarily maybe to win it, but to keep the time difference as small as possible, to quite possibly go for yellow on Danish soil with the 2 sprint stages that we had after that. Sadly for Mads Pedersen, that didn't work out. But he did put in an awful lot of training in the months, almost a year after they announced that it was going to be a time trial in Copenhagen.
Surprised there he went the whole way around that roundabout. A lot of the riders skipping across the kind of cobbled part.
This must be Florian Vermeers at the timing point. But as it looks at the moment, the stage win is going to be between Dan Hole, Søren Werenskjold, and quite possibly Mads Pedersen. We haven't seen an intermediate time, of course, from Pedersen just yet. But we did see that they were...
Werenskjold will lead. I really do. He's got that kind of sense about him that he's really, really powerful. Something to prove. That unfortunate incident with the puncture the other day. He has ridden super strong this week, and I just think that edge is going to kind of take him through. It's what this man can do, whether he can beat the time of Werenskjold.
Skelmose. There we go. Completely different rider, of course. Winner of the Tour of Switzerland, winner of the Tour of Luxembourg. Really punchy rider. I do wonder if these 4 seconds that he has on Pedersen will be enough to secure the overall win. Kind of afraid it will not be. But Skelmose will just put everything out on the road there. A lot of support from the Danish crowd. We saw that when he won that stage in Violet on Thursday. In that Danish national champions jersey, no less. An absolute wonderful moment. And in the press release, he said that it will be one of his best wins and most memorable moments on the bike. That 1-2 with Mads Pedersen and winning there in Violet.
Just see the difference there with Mads Pedersen going round the that corner there on his skis. So it's something that they had they talked about, that you can do that certain corners at certain speeds. You know, just stay on them. So that information will be given into his ear. He already kind of picture this in his mind as well. Like you said, there's only about 5 corners, so it's only, you know, it's only 5 corners to kind of worry about.
Yeah, and maybe one of the riders who started before him, maybe even his brother, that he was in the car with his brother who's way down in the GC to just have a final look at the course before he was going to start his own warm-up. He would have had plenty of time to do that for a final look at the course. It happens all the time that that riders join one of their teammates in the team car. Here we go in the streets of Helsingør with Søren Werenskjold. The time to beat is 18:25. He is in that final kilometer. Søren Werenskjold, they were at exactly the same time 5 kilometers ago. Give us timing. He's going into that final corner as we speak. 250 meters to go for Søren Werenskjold. We would love to have the clock now. 18:25 is the time for Dan Holer. Oh, this is going to be very close, but it looks like he is going to get that win. All the frustration from that flat tire on the pedals right now, and Søren Werenskjold is our new leader. Almost 2 hours in the hot seat for Dan Holer, but his first pro win, it's not going to happen today, sadly. Søren Werenskjold in the hot seat. Well, he won't have to wait 2 hours because there's only 5 riders after him. Also good time there for Magnus Kort, by the way. Just 2 seconds down on Dan Holer and Werenskjold.
Yeah, quite unfortunate for Dan Holer. He put in a tremendous amount of work today into this time trial. Obviously teammates of the 1-2 at the moment, so Lido Trek have had a really good Tour of Denmark. Let's see what they can do to finish it off. They will finish first and second. In what order can they win the stage? But yeah, you could just tell that Werenskjold did that kind of bit between his teeth, that kind of point to prove, and that should be enough to put him onto the podium.
Yeah, if you look at the difference between the podium and Werenskjold, that's only just 20 seconds. But we saw at the intermediate timing point, there was only 2 seconds between him and Magnus Kort. So as it stands right now, Werenskjold is in 4th place. It all kind of depends on what Mathias Skelmose is going to do. Is he going to lose a tremendous lot of time and drops away from the podium? Might happen. But as it stands, Magnus Kort is still holding on to his 3rd place with regards to Søren Werenskjold. This is very interesting. Look at the speed on this man. 22 seconds faster than Dan Holer. And we see Dan Holer, but that was the exact same time as Søren Werenskjold. Also 12:24. This man is on a mission, Brian.
Does it really surprise you?
Well, I would have hoped to have a Dutch winner today. But I think there's not a lot of people in the world who do not like Mads Pedersen. He seems like an honestly lovely guy.
Yeah, in this course, it's just about sheer power, and you know, he's been oozing up pretty much all week. He's been up there on every stage. Really powerful rider.
Yeah, he was 3rd, 5th, second so far in the race. Sits in 2nd place on the GC. Vermeers, he might have to give away his 5th place at the moment to Werenskjold. He will have to. So Werenskjold is already moving up to 4th as we speak. Yeah, he knows what time it is. He knows exactly what is going to happen. This Mads Pedersen is not going to give away 22 seconds in that final part. We do have a headwind going back in.
Yeah, that will even suit Mads Pedersen, to be honest with you.
Yep.
This is a power course. You know, he's just ripping it up. You know, he was my favourite at the start of the day. You know, with this performance. And in fact, you know, going back to stage 1, when he had that that puncture, that double puncture coming onto the circuit, I think I said at the end that, you know, for the stage, it's maybe not going to be the case, but he's fighting to get back. That's why I couldn't understand it, why they didn't send Mosca back to help him, to make it easier to get back, because he's thinking the long game, not just stage wins, but winning the Tour of Denmark, and I think he's on his way to do that.
Yeah, we will see the intermediate time of Matthias Skjelmose coming up now, but yeah, this is a world apart. 12:02 was the time of Skjelmose. He's not yet losing his podium position to Werenskjold, but he might. Although 1:09 is quite a substantial gap. We'll have to look at Kort as well, but it looks like he will stay on that podium, be second, Matthias Skjelmose, but Mads Pedersen is off to a fantastic win in a fantastic week of racing in Denmark.
Yeah, it looks as if he's going to take this time trial and take the overall victory. You're right about Magnus Kort. I'd kind of half forgotten about him, that he started the day at 49 seconds down. So, you know, like you say, he had 20 seconds on Werenskjold. Werenskjold is in the hot seat at the moment, but Magnus Kort slowly but surely has kind of pulled something out the back here. He's one of the riders that we did mention. Søren Kragh was another one that you never know. On a good day, these guys can time trial. All these Danish guys can time trial very well.
The time of Werenskjold was 18:14. So to keep his place on the podium, Magnus Kort has to do 18:34 or faster.
He just has to be aware of this final corner. It's caught a few people out, and I hope it doesn't catch him out.
There's a little ridge there going into that final corner that has been a problem for some riders. 18:34 is what he needs to stay on the podium of the Tour of Denmark, and then we'll have a full Danish podium. Give us a clock. Oh, he is going to be on that podium. A fantastic time trial here by Magnus Kort. Really giving everything, and he holds on to his 3rd place. And that means that Werenskjold will most likely be 4th. We haven't seen the time of Conchi. We haven't seen Conchi at all. But Werenskjold most likely 4th. He would have been on that podium were it not for the flat tyre. But that's ifs and buts, and they don't count. Final kilometre for Mads Pedersen. He had 22 seconds on our current race leader, Søren Werenskjold, at the 10.7 kilometre mark. This is the final kilometre. He was 3rd, he was 5th, and he was 2nd twice on the 4 stages of the Tour of Denmark. He's 2nd on the GC, and he's still flying on the course. Of course, cheered on by all the Danish spectators here. Everybody loves Mads Pedersen in Denmark and around the world, I think. Must be one of the most likable guys in the peloton. Final corner is coming up at 17:21. He still has almost a minute for these final 400 meters. This is going to be an absolute stellar win for Mads Pedersen. Going into that final corner, he doesn't have to take any risks. And there we are. Look, listen to the sound of the Danish fans. as Mads Pedersen rolls across the line and wins the time trial. And we, of course, still have to wait for Mathias Skelmoser, but we already know that he's also going to win the general classification. What a ride by Mads Pedersen. In predictions, Brian, you often have a choice of the head and a choice of the heart. I think this was both.
No, he crushed it. It's the Tour of Denmark. He's the darling of Denmark at the moment. The buffer that this man has will possibly keep him in second place. Magnus Kort pulled something out there. I thought Warren Cole would have managed to get on the podium. He just fails to do that by about, 10, 11 seconds now. So it's a good performance there. He'll finish second on the stage. But he had his stage win, didn't he? He had his time in the leader's jersey. And for a young man, Norwegian time trial champion, he's done a really good job this week. He's just been up against a really super Mads Pedersen, and I think he's super because he focused so much on the World Championships recently in Glasgow.
Super compensation from his preparation. Tour de France, Glasgow, and then just go on to the Tour of Denmark. I hope there's a little bit of holiday coming up for Mads Pedersen, a little bit of downtime for the Danish rider. But apparently he's on the roster for tomorrow, Brian, in Hamburg, and then immediately on to the Deutschland Tour. Well, he's been at it since the 1st of July, actually, since the Tour de France. But on fire is Mads Pedersen. This man, he has, like you said, a buffer on Magnus Kort of 49 seconds. And that should be more than enough. The time of Magnus Kort was 18:24. But he's actually not that far behind Magnus Kort. So good time trial, great shot here of Mathias Skelmoser, stage winner in Vejle and runner-up in the Tour of Denmark. You said about that hot seat that Dan Holer was on, that it looked like it was for somebody's living room. It looks very much like one from IKEA. He doesn't even look tired. What a guy, what a guy. Everybody gradually moving towards the podium to see a full Danish podium here in the Tour of Denmark. Mads Pedersen wins ahead of Skelmoser and Magnus Kort. Well, Brian, it's been a good week. We've seen some great racing, great winners, good sprinting.
Yeah, it's been good. I think Lido Trek have played a blinder this week. Just the kind of tactics, maybe not the strongest I feel, considering that there's so many races on at the moment. But win's a win, and to win your home tour, finishing top 5 pretty much all week, and then getting the win at the end, it's a good finish.
This is the result of the time trial. Mads Pedersen with 24 seconds on Werenskjold. Kort, Holer, Skelmoser, Larsen, Pedersen, Tjerny, Vermeers and Frederik Muff, our first man in the hot seat in 10th place there for the Color Quit team. 5 Danes, 6 Danes in the top 10. And 3 Danes on the final overall podium, which hopefully we will see right now, as everybody moves towards that podium to see their heroes. So, final day, a phenomenal Mads Pedersen winning the time trial and the overall in the Tour of Denmark. Have our podium in front of the Danish Maritime Museum, as you might have guessed from the ships there in front of it. But first we'll go through the highlights of today's time trial. It was a 16.1 kilometer time trial with a tailwind going out to town and a headwind going back into town. Straight roads, 4 turns only. And we had this man in 3rd place. Started the day in 3rd, Magnus Kort, and also finishes the day in the GC and on the stage result in 3rd place. A lot of 3rd places going on for Magnus Kort. And Søren Werenskjold, his Tour of Denmark, started really well with a stage win and the leader's jersey. But then in that leader's jersey, he punctured, lost the leader's jersey, dropped back to 7th place, out of contention for the overall win. But he was very adamant to put on a great performance today, the former under-23 world champion. He is going into the hot seat right now, but we still have Mads Pedersen to go. Werenskjold giving everything all the way to the line. The Hippo of Mandal is his nickname. But it's going to be a 2nd place for him, because the fastest of them all, whether it is a bunch sprint or whether it is a time trial, is Mads Pedersen. He was 3rd, 5th, 2nd and 2nd on the first 4 stages of the Tour of Denmark. And on the final day, he finally got himself the win. And for the 2nd time in his career, 6 years after his first win in the Tour of Denmark, he does it again. He wins the 2023 Tour of Denmark, the final stage and the GC. The first one when he was just 21, now he's 27. He's got a world title, stages in all 3 Grand Tours, and a 2nd crown in the Tour of Denmark for Mads Pedersen. And here we have confirmation. Mads Pedersen started today 4 seconds down on his teammate Skelmose, and he wins the race with 41 seconds. Magnus Kort on the podium, Werenskjold, Vermeerskamp, Van Moer, Breinhoy, Squinch and Magnus Bak-Klaris. 3 riders of Lidl Trek. Like Brian said, they were the strongest team here, not only with these 3 riders, but also Dan Hole, Martin Pedersen, the brother of Julien Bernard, and Jacopo Mosca.